believed that he wouldn't be found guilty on any of the counts. Then there were those who believed he would only be found guilty on 2 of the counts. But here we have a unanimous decision on all of these counts that indicate that what Chauvin did was murder George Floyd on video. And I think that the world saw that, but of course it was up to the jurors to make that decision whether or not they were that they believed that that is exactly what happened. The prosecution had a very tough job here to convince all the jurors, because remember, it had to be unanimous. If there was one juror who said, well, I'm a little bit in doubt, I'm a little bit dubious, I'm a little skeptical, that could have ended in a hung jury for Derek Chauvin, and he could have been acquitted. There were also that the defense was trying to get a mistrial because of comments made by political members saying that there should be a guilty verdict in this case, and if there wasn't, that protesters should march in and be a bit more aggressive with how they're demanding justice. So there were a lot of things and a lot of reasons why there was a lot of skepticism as to how this would be ultimately judged. But here we have a judgment, one that many people, of course, are pleased to hear. But again, this is a moment of pause, because we have to also remember and put into context exactly how this person was found guilty. There was a videotape. There were numerous witnesses there. The fact that the defendant, Derek Chauvin, was accused of misconduct before on the. So there were a number of factors that led to his guilty conviction. If one of those pillars of guilt, or one of those pillars of observation or being a witness was faulty, Derek Chauvin could have walked. And so this is, again, this is not a moment of celebration, really, but really a point of reflection for many Americans as we look at our police force, how we are treated by police on a day-to-day basis, and what it takes for someone to really face justice when they do something wrong when they're wearing a badge.
But, perhaps a turning point. George, Floyd's family lawyer has hailed a verdict calling as a turning point in history, and I'll agree to a certain degree with that, and I'll tell you why. Because first of all, I was surprised, especially after a long deliberation. I thought perhaps they might come back with a lesser count, or maybe another. It was hard to prove intent, as it usually really is, and especially for cops. And but that was so there was a break there that he got found on all 3 charges. And also that, Colin, if you notice, in the past, we never saw too many police chiefs and trainings officers that for force and whatnot, come and actually testify against. And, so we saw the blue wall, or that blue code broken. We saw his coworkers, people, trainers come and actually say that what he did was not authorized use of force. It was not policy. What he did was wrong. What he was unjust. It was dirty. So basically, we saw a lot of things as a first. So maybe, a small trickle of hope that, maybe changes on the horizon when it comes to police in America.
Right, and that's a key word you said there, a small trickle, because like we said, this is a different direction that we have seen. And again, yes, we have seen that there were police chiefs and other members of the police force willing to contradict the defense testimony. But again, we have seen what happens when there can be a perfect storm and how disastrous it can be. Well, just as expectedly, there can be a perfect storm going in the other direction. And we will see if this was a perfect storm that was something that related to something positive in the direction of policing and justice for America. When we look again at just all the various components that came together at that moment, where somebody was recording the video for that whole time, where you heard the shouts of the crowd, where you heard George Floyd calling out for mama, when you saw the liquid leaking from his body, when you had the doctors saying that just because he was because he was in handcuffs and prone position on the ground, that could also make him lose oxygen, never mind having knee on his neck for almost 10 minutes. All of these things, all of the things that you mentioned, that's what led to this guilty conviction. It wasn't a couple of people who said, yeah, we saw the police officer abuse a person and that's how he faced some type of justice. No, it was all of the confluence of all of these contributing factors and evidence that led to the guilty verdict. And so, yes, we do have to look at what is hopeful coming out of this. But again, it's still not a time for celebration, as there are so many other people who have lost their lives at the hands of police that didn't have a videotape to substantiate anything, that didn't have a recording, that there were people who lied on the stand. We also know that the United States are infiltrated by people who identify as white nationalists or white hegemons. And so we have to be careful of that as well, where there may not be that perfect circumstance where you have somebody willing to break that blue wall. Perhaps this could change, but it's still too early to tell. We can be hopeful in that, yes, there was a police officer who was convicted who may not see the light of day anymore because he has been convicted on all 3 counts. But at the same time, we have to be mindful of the police policies that continue in this country that have not been changed. We also have to be careful of what can be not a flashback, but a backlash from this event, where you have police officers who might not agree with the verdict, who might think that it should have gone another way, or states that believe that a precedent could be set in undermining the police. So they put into place policies that would be more pro-police, or maybe not so much pro-police, but just lesser friendly to the public. These are things that we have to be mindful of despite today's verdict, because again, this is something different from hundreds of years of behavior, and it's not going to change overnight.
Okay, we're out of time, Colin. I want to thank you for joining us, but just to underscore really quick, all the points you made, Colin, it's just wild. Up until 5 minutes ago, we were not sure if Derek Chauvin was going to walk on this or not, considering the mountain of evidence. Many may say it was to find him guilty. We still were kind of, up in the air until about a few minutes ago if he's going to be found guilty or not. Thank you. That was Press TV's Colin Campbell. They're joining us there out of Washington, D.C. Derek Chauvin, who knelt on George Floyd's neck for over 9.5 minutes on May 25th last year in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota, resulting in his death, has been found guilty on 3 separate counts, all related to manslaughter. He'll be sentenced in 8 weeks' time. Until then, he will be in custody. And now to continue with our world news.